Good morning and welcome to Crypto Q&A Between Two Ferns edition. Today I'm joined by two guests, Mr. Ghost of SBF, as well as Guy, Crypto Guy. How you doing, Guy?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I like the fact that we've coordinated today.
Yes. And our new setup, our new trial in our new studio setup.
Smart, isn't it?
Zara's using, our videographer's using her creative juices, and this is actually a good setup. I like it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's
great. Okay, so another Q&A. Thanks for sending in your questions on Instagram. We will get right to it with the big question. This one's for you, Nick. Brittany Tattoos asks, have we hit Altseason yet? Have we, Nick? Please tell me we have. Have we?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one, right? Because, what is Altseason? We did a video on this. And I guess the question is more intently how do you define an Altseason? What metrics would you use? There's a few we can look at, but there is no singular defined definition. Now we're in Altseason, right? I think for one, obviously, we've seen Bitcoin dominance has still continued going up, right? And that's not necessarily an indicator of an Altseason yet, because you would expect alts to rally in relation to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We've also seen generally in previous Altseasons, it's been accepted that people have rotated out of Bitcoin into Ethereum, and hence ETH relative to BTC would be increasing. This isn't the case either. ETH has been falling. However, on the flip side, certain altcoins have definitely been rallying, right? Like Solana, right? Yeah. The Sol BTC pair has been rolling up. Some previous altcoins have reached their all-time highs already. And some of previous all-time highs as well, some of the previous cycle. So that should potentially, they've rotated into other types of alts. But more broadly, in terms of other metrics you can look at, in terms of social metrics, search volumes, trading volumes, we still aren't at anywhere near previous all-time highs, channel growth, these kind of things.
Yeah.
So what that means then is those metrics which were high up in the previous bull cycle, the previous altcoin season, aren't there yet. So in that relation, I don't think we've hit Altseason yet. Maybe for particular altcoins, but not more broadly, no. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think you're right. It kind of feels so different, doesn't it? Because of these ETFs and because Bitcoin's been pumping, and could still make a new all-time high, another new all-time high before the halving. We've still got a few weeks before the halving. So yeah, it is this kind of extraordinary position that we're in at the moment. But those that wider landscape of retail traders, they don't seem to be here yet.
Yeah, they aren't. And I guess the question here is, do you think if they come, it will be as crazy as the previous Altseasons?
I think it could be.
You think
so? It could be, especially if we get some sort of, if the money printer gets turned back on again, if we get lowering of interest rates, more money injected into the economy, more liquidity.
More liquidity, that's true.
Because I think that's one of the big indicators to say that we're not, or that Altseason may be a while off, because there are record levels of things like household debt, aren't there? And with higher interest rates, people are having to pay more on their mortgages, which means less disposable income, which means less income that could find its way into crypto.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors at play.
That's true. I think that's one we've mentioned in our Altseason video, which is basically cost of living, right?
Yeah.
Because in the previous cycle, the liquidity in terms of not just from the Fed, but also stimmy checks, gave people a lot of free disposable income that they could just throw into whatever meme coins or altcoins they wanted. So yeah, I think that when that liquidity starts coming flooding back in, once we hit the pivot, that's potentially an indicator that we could start seeing Altseason.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be as big as the previous Altseason relative to Bitcoin, I don't know. I think that there's a case to be made that Bitcoin is rated a lot now because of ETF buyers. ETF buyers can't easily rotate because of the fact that A, they can't rotate out of ETFs into altcoins easily, and B, because they're the kind of buyers who are not necessarily going to buy altcoins.
Yeah.
But, that's a completely different discussion.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we go on to the next question, and this is from 13 Edward. And he's asking, with the EU regulation, should I withdraw all my portfolio from Binance? I have some small coins. My assumption is referring to potentially this thing that happened on the weekend with the EU self-custodial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was shown to be not quite as bad as people were kind of making out. But nevertheless, it is getting, these laws in the EU are not what you would call pro-crypto. They're not making doing crypto easier, if you like. My first thought on hearing that question would be, well, if you are keeping most of your portfolio on Binance, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be keeping most of your portfolio on any exchange. So now is the time, if you're not already using one, now is the time to think about, your own wallet. Whether it's, if you have, I think you said, I have some small coins. Now, obviously, not all of those are supported by most hardware wallets.
Yeah.
So this is the time to sort of think about browser wallets, software wallets that have wider coin support. Remember, sometimes if you've got tokens that exist on a particular L1, let's say, for instance, Avalanche, then you can, especially if they're new tokens, they're probably not supported by any particular wallet, but you should look into using like an Avalanche native wallet, which would be downloadable as a browser extension. So this is all stuff to think about. So that's the first thing. And I think with EU regulations in general, as I said, the EU is not going to make it any easier to do crypto. But we're not at the stage where, they're going to be trying to confiscate it all from you.
No, not at that stage yet. And I think that around this particular point, the FUD over the weekend, I think that many people were worried, is this going to include self-custodial wallets, this $3,000 limit or €3,000 limit? And it was actually a misinterpretation of a translation from an EU minister regarding the new EU anti-money laundering regulations. And it was basically related to entities that are called obliged entities. It's pretty cool that they term it an obliged entity. Kind of like, you're obliged to follow these rules. Otherwise, we will throw you in prison, throw away the key. But you're obliged to. It meant basically merchants, right? So basically, if you're accepting crypto, you have to KYC over a certain limit of €3,000. But it didn't include self-custodial wallets. But either way, yes, you should not be keeping any coins in an exchange in a large amount. And if you can't use a hardware wallet, all native chains should support a software wallet of some description that you can download and store on your browser. So,
there are people out there, plenty of them, who would love to have KYC on all wallets. Who the idea of self-custodial wallets is something they hate.
The guys over at FATF just dream at night about being able to KYC every single wallet out there, unhosted wallet.
Which is all the more reason to get ahead and get your self-custodial wallets sorted now before they try and make it even more difficult to own one of those things.
Are you ready for deals? Are you ready for trading fee discounts? Are you ready to save some money? If the answer is yes, then you're ready for the Coin Bureau Deals page. Yes, Coin Bureau brings you the very best deals and promotions in all of crypto. You won't find offers like these anywhere else. Discounts on the best hardware wallets! Exchange sign-up bonuses of up to $60,000. Trading fee discounts of up to 60%. Coin Bureau's brand new altcoin-focused subscription service. The Coin Bureau Deals page is even better for you than this piece of succulent, protein-rich, nutritious grilled chicken. Head on over to coinbureau.com/deals. or click the link in the description below. Don't delay. Check out the Coin Bureau Deals page today. These deals are so hot, I need to cool down. Yeah!
Okay, next one comes from 19 Dario 86. Do you see Sol flipping ETH in the future? Brackets, not this cycle.
Yeah, this is a very tough one actually, because I hold ETH, I don't hold Sol. Probably one of the few don't hold Sol. And over the past few weeks, or month really, I've been more and more indicators have shown me okay, maybe you should, first of all, it's does Sol have potential to outperform ETH in general, right? Because of numerous factors, right? So people saying obviously the most important thing to consider is the UX of Solana is considerably easier now, especially for newbies coming on board into the market. People come into the market this cycle to use Solana. A lot of people, I remember I listened to a podcast, a lot of people don't even know what MetaMask is. They just download straight to Phantom. And we did a recent Solana update video, right? And that was relatively bullish. We also did an ETH versus Solana video 3 to 4 weeks back. Yeah, I think Solana is performing really well this cycle. In terms of the metrics to look at, 3 million Phantom Wallet downloads now compared to 2 million only 4 months ago. That's all new adoption. It's got, last week, it did more on-chain DEX volume than Ethereum Solana. So that's big.
It's got its own phone.
It's got its own phone, exactly. Yeah, talk about mass adoption, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got its own phone with meme coins loaded on and everything. So, and of course, there's also like lots of other things. Visa's looking into working on Solana. You've got massive volumes. I mean, on-chain activities as high as it was in the previous cycle. Obviously, there's some things they're going to work on updates. ETH just had its big update, Denkun, right? Which is kind of like, it was good and it showed there was a lot of demand, like dropped fees on L2s, but like what does it mean for Ethereum itself specifically? Whereas Solana's still got a lot of updates coming this year, right? They've got a change to the way they work priority fees in about a month or two that will change, which will make it a lot easier from an MEV component, less downtime and less of these failed transactions. And then they've also got big one, which is Fire Dancer, right? New client, which is increased diversity, make it easier for increased scalability, make it easier for people to run validators. So I guess, yes, Ethereum is more decentralized. Ethereum is, and it's more secure from that perspective. And, it doesn't have these downtime issues that Solana has had. But at the end of the day, the question comes down to, if each scalability is now related to the layer 2s, right? So most of the people are going to be doing transactions and building dApps on the layer 2s. You fragment liquidity across these layer 2s in these different blockchains as compared to Solana, which is one monolithic blockchain. And then also there's the question of demand for ETH compared to demand for Solana. Solana's tokenomics, they got a lot more inflation than Ethereum. It goes like 5% versus Ethereum's like 0.1%. Sometimes ETH goes into burns. So I guess it's a long-winded way of saying, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what's the easier chain? What's the easier and cheaper chain to use right now?
I mean, that's Solana, yeah. So I mean, yeah.
I kind of think these metrics are going to decide it. Like, people don't want to pay $50 in gas fees. That's so no one trading $100 worth of meme coins.
It's been really crazy the past 2 days or so, like with these blob transactions going on. I don't know if you've tried to send a transaction through a Trezor or any hardware wallet. It's given me many issues, and the gas fees are just off the chain, literally. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, right? Because I don't know if it's kind of like a bias because I hold ETH and I don't hold Sol, and I'm kind of like, trying to rationalize. You hold both. Okay, yes. So you're more free to give this opinion from a completely objective perspective, whereas me, I'm kind of like, still angling onto ETH. I want to believe in ETH, but it's the problem, and it's not just the fact that I've seen it personally, but also like so many people are telling me, Solana, the Solana UX, it's a lot of investments going into the Solana space. So
when we reviewed Phantom Wallet, this is like going back.
This was 2021.
This is 2 years or more. Yeah. When we reviewed Phantom Wallet, we gave it a really good write-up. And one of the things that we talked about was the fact that it has this amazing UX. Like, it's really easy to use.
Exactly.
Like, MetaMask has never been, like, I've got MetaMask on my phone, and it's not great.
Especially switching and stuff, trying to change between different networks, it's just not an easy use. Especially just think about the process of onboarding into a MetaMask. It's not as quick and straightforward and easy, because I just had to download. I downloaded Phantom to my browser a few days ago, just to and it was just like straight up. It's like it's as quick as easy as downloading an app on the App Store. That's it. You're in, right?
Yeah.
And so with MetaMask, it's even the process itself is kind of convoluted.
Yeah.
So yeah.
UX and ease of use and cheap fees. That's what I think makes the difference.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know if regular people. Obviously, these issues that Solana has going down are not good.
Yeah.
But do people care? I'm just not sure they do. Like, people get frustrated, but then people are so used to frustrations with Ethereum, aren't they? People are so used to the network getting clogged up or to paying these gas fees. Like, obviously they're trying to do a $100 meme coin transaction on Solana, and it doesn't go through. Like, that's going to really annoy them, but it's not going to be enough
It's not going to be annoy them, because at the end of the day, the question comes down to, if you have to pay $1 of fees, $2 to $3 of fees on Ethereum to trade your meme coin every single time, compared to the once every few months that you're trying to do it and there's a larger volume going on Solana, there may be a few failed transactions going on. It's you're more averse to the former, because it's kind of like, every single time I'm doing a transaction, man, that's eating into my profits. Man, to trade this meme coin is going to be difficult because it's going to eat into my profits. And it's also not just that. It's like, it's network effects. The network effects. It's kind of like the fact that a lot of meme coins are now on Solana because it's easier to issue them, where people want to trade there, and this has got the most liquidity for meme coins. And as people, where if you were developing a meme coin, you want people to be able to trade it to create demand for the network. People are going to go and that's going to beget more liquidity, begets more liquidity, begets more developers to launch there, begets more users, right? Whereas Ethereum is kind of like, it needs to get that kickstart for the meme coin ecosystem. And right now, there aren't too many memes popping off from the Ethereum ecosystem, right? There's people willing to trade there on Ethereum. So, yeah, it's
Still,
UX, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't fade Ethereum though. There's still a lot happening there, but
I wouldn't.
I think they will lose ground. So, I guess the short answer to that question is it's possible in the future on current trajectory, but Ethereum, is working on a lot, and if it can solve those UX and particularly those fee issues, then everyone else is going to be playing catch up.
Yeah, it really just depends on the updates as well, right? Because they've been touting this fire dancer thing for quite some time, the fire dancer upgrade. The question will, how will that impact on this on the scalability and the uptime? Because that's important. Because Ethereum doesn't really have too many big updates now, so to look forward to. That's another thing. It's like people like to go and look into what's coming for the network. Denkun was one of the biggest, right? There's a few others that will come, but that's in time. Sharding and that kind of stuff. There's even a question now about whether the whole sharding thing is needed, given that you've got these layer 2s now with blob transactions and Denkun through, and whether it just will be development on the ETH itself, be a security chain, whereas all the layer 2s will be where a lot of the development will take place. But then you come back to the question around fragmentation of liquidity and monolithic change, which is a completely different argument.
This is a discussion that could go on for a very long time, so we should
let's
move
go on. On to the next question, and this is from Confol09. What is your thoughts about L2s? How will they perform this cycle and why? You hold a few L2s in your portfolio.
I hold a couple of L2s. I hold Arbitrum and I hold IMX, Immutables IMX. So important to clear that up. Yeah. So one of the reasons I bought ARB and IMX a couple of months ago now was sort of in anticipation of Denkun. And they haven't really performed very well post Denkun, but I do expect them to do well over the course of the the bull market. I think the future for L2s, it's going to be we've just been talking about Solana, and I think there is now a definite sense that perhaps, because I think for a while people were talking about Ethereum's layer 2 ecosystem as being the big threat to all these alternative layer 1s, Solana, Avalanche, etc. So I guess now that fact that Solana is doing so much volume, Avalanche is also proving pretty popular, especially for things like gaming and stuff. It does make it a bit more uncertain for these layer 2s. But I guess really the proof of the pudding is going to be in the projects that build on them.
Yeah.
Things like one of the reasons I'm bullish on Immutable is because I think it's a great idea to have a layer 2 that's focused on one particular narrative, in this case gaming, that is very likely to do well in this cycle. Yeah. So that was my reason for that. The reason I was bullish on Arbitrum, and still am, is because I think they're focusing a lot on ecosystem development. So those were my two particular picks. Now, I guess really what depends is, what will determine their success, as I say, is the quality of projects building on them, and whether or not there's going to be viable competition from other layer 1s. So I guess maybe Immutable's biggest competitor is, in this case, Avalanche.
Avalanche subnets, yeah, correct. Yeah. I guess the question is, obviously the impact of Denkun was felt significantly when it comes to fees. Like some of these layer 2s, like Starknet had something like 99% fall in fees afterwards. So there was a large impact, which is great. But then also the question relates to, of course, a lot of competition from these layer 1s, and also some of the newer layer 1s, Sui, Aptos, Nia is a great one. And also the question around, if you're talking about performance, there's one thing is network, but the other one is, of course, tokens, right? And the question comes down to, what are the use cases of these tokens in the ecosystems? If they're not required explicitly for fees, right? It's not a requirement to use these tokens as network gas fees, then the utility demand, even if they do grow and they do expand out, and there's a lot of dApps and TVL, and they grow, and there's expansion of the ecosystem for that L2 with all these projects, if it's not creating underlying demand for the token itself, then it's not going to really lead to growth in the price of it. So, that's another thing to consider as well.
I think Metis is the only layer 2 that actually uses its native token for fees.
Metis is one. I think Starknet, they have the option to do that, but it's not a requirement, right? So that's a thing that basically. But didn't Matic sidechain? You could use Matic sidechain. I think you need Matic for gas.
Right.
But you got to double check that. But I think that it's new. Obviously, ZK. I think you can use fees, ETH for fees. But it's the question of, is there going to be demand for the token for fees? Because that's what will drive the price. If not, then governance itself is not a massive demand driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much people care about.
Care about voting, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy these tokens so I can vote on the next Arbitrum improvement proposal 355. So,
Yeah. Okay, Rick Blend 222 asks, will Grayscale sell all BTC? I presume all Grayscale's BTC.
Yeah, all Grayscale's BTC. So what would they mean, the GBTC in the fee? I think that means, yeah. So first of all, obviously, it's not Grayscale that's selling these. It's their clients that are redeeming Bitcoin for their shares, right? And this has been going on for quite some time. First, it started off because all these funds had bought GBTC to take advantage of the premium and do the arbitrage trade. So buy the GBTC at a discount and then close out when they got approved when the discount closed. But subsequently, a lot of the flows out of GBTC have been because of the fees are just insane on the Grayscale product.
Highest by a long way.
150 bips compared to the competitors, which are 0 to 40.
Yeah.
Now, that's insane. Like, who's going to do that for a long period of time? And I've seen some analysis behind this. Like, look, Grayscale is just trying to milk it as much as possible. They don't care if they're going to completely deplete the fund because right now they're making so much money at 150 bips. So it's kind of like they're trying to make the decision, right? We know we bleed in AUM. We know we're uncompetitive. We know all these other guys are eating our lunch all the time. But we don't want to let go of that 150 bips that we're earning right now. So it's kind of like are they going to choose the short-term pain for the long-term gain or what? So Grayscale is having that problem, right? Is the fees are just too high. People are moving out of it. And another interesting theory as well I've seen is that there needs to be disclosed as well. But Genesis, they hold a lot of GBTC. Because so Genesis is obviously a subsidiary of DCG, which is related to Grayscale. And Genesis holds a lot of GBTC. Genesis gone through bankruptcy. They need to sell out of all their assets to pay back creditors. They may hold a lot of GBTC and they sell in. So that could be a large driver of this as well. But the point of the matter is, will it sell all of it? Well, I mean, obviously, it's a free market, right? If you can move easily to BlackRock's product, right, at nearly zero fees, why would you hold and pay 150 bips a year just to literally do exactly the same product?
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of unfortunate as well, because Grayscale was the one who was leading the light and fight against the SEC, and now they're literally, self-emulating themselves with this.
It seems odd. It seems odd. Like you say, short-term gain for long-term pain. Like that doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But I mean, I guess that must be their strategy, because otherwise they would have dropped their fees to compete. Because, they had a sense. I guess if they dropped them straight away, then they probably would have been people would have been much less likely to move out. If they've dropped it to a competitive fee, they could still earn fees on it.
To be fair, yes, I know, but I guess the question is their operation had been set up around cash flows to be able to count on these cash flows. Also remember, Grayscale subsidiary of DCG going through a lot of turmoil itself, right? Yeah. So it's like maybe they really need the money, and if you go, you do kind of need the money if you're going through bankruptcy and creditors and you've got lawsuits to defend and all this kind of stuff. So. That's probably why they're going through this. They're not moving their fees down. Cool. So the next question is from Jazz Scott, and he's asking, what do you think will lead crypto this bull run? AI, L2, gaming, etc. So narratives. What are your top narratives?
I think AI seems to be the big one.
AI is the big one.
AI, because it's that sector in general is just expanding so much, and every day it seems to be, people become more and more aware of what this is going to do. Yeah. So it's at the forefront of everyone's mind. Like I've said before, I think the crossover between crypto and AI, I'm not sure there's in fact, I am sure that there is no way as many use cases, but at that crossover point, that there are tokens out there. AI themed cryptos out there. So but I mean, that doesn't, in a way, that kind of doesn't matter, because people are jumping on a narrative. So all AI cryptos, I think, could do well off the back of that narrative. The question is, which ones are actually going to emerge with a useful product at that intersection? My guess would be not actually that many. Still, AI, I think, as a narrative, will fly because of those reasons. The other ones that I'm bullish on are Deepin. Mm-hmm. We did a deep dive into Masari's Deepin report a few months ago. I think that combines all the things of an easily understandable narrative, decentralizing physical infrastructure, with projects that actually do seem to be genuinely useful. Yeah. and combined with things and these projects, they aren't for financial use cases. So I think that makes them, in theory, safer from regulators.
Yeah.
I think regulators are going to have much more pressing matters to deal with than deep in projects, deep in use cases. So AI and deep in are my two picks, but I mean, there are plenty of others.
There are plenty of others, yeah. So I will agree those two are very important ones. I think AI, also the point to mention around the beta play around getting exposure to AI, because people in the retail can't get exposure to AI stocks as well, unless it's NVIDIA, but come on, that's really
that's I mean, it keeps pumping, but that ship kind of has sailed.
That ship has sailed, so it's a good beta play for them to get into AI tokens, and so AI tokens, and there's a lot of exciting AI projects out there. We've obviously invested in two, AOS and Nillion.
Yep.
So AOS is out already, and Nillion is obviously going to be released in the next month or so. I've covered both of these in the Coin Bureau Club if you're a subscriber. So they're both top on the AI narrative, and AOS actually also falls into Deepin to a certain degree, but you can read the post there if you want that. Deepin, 100% as well. I think that think about the real world use cases in terms of the way to really onboard new users into the space is if it's one of those narratives that really can, because you're using stuff that people will use every single day. It's not just a funny money. It's basically, if you run in a decentralized mobile network, if you run in a decentralized rail ride sharing, it's all something that you can use on the day. So that Masori report said that they could expect Deepin to have, by 2028, the Deepin ecosystem to be worth 2.8 trillion. So it's a pretty ambitious number, but it's exciting nonetheless. Yeah. Or 3.5 trillion, 3.5 trillion.
Yeah.
One more that we didn't mention is gaming. Now, I mean, that's another one that potentially, it has potential for onboarding mass adoption if people can actually, if there's a game that actually people want to play, right? That gamers will actually enjoy, because as opposed to Deepin, what we've seen with gamifying gaming projects is gamers have been massively averse to them, right? They actually hate them sometimes, right? This whole gimmicky stuff. Whereas what's important to note is now if you actually have games that are cool to play, games that people find exciting, and that native gamers would, I love this game, I want to play this game. Oh, it's got tokens as well. What's that? I want to learn about it. Can we use it in the game? So in terms of projects on that side, we've obviously talked about Shrapnel quite a few times.
Shrapnel, yeah.
And another really big one to watch for this year, which is coming soon, is Off the Grid by Gunzilla Games, and another bit of alpha for you guys. The Coin Bureau is also invested into that, and a strategic investment on that side. So we'll keep you updated about that. And of course, the Coin Bureau Club subscribers will give you more information once we get it about important releases for that game. So those are the top narratives, I think, Deepin, AI, and gaming. So
certainly those are the top ones that we think. There are lots of others people talking about real world assets at the moment. That's kind of hot.
DeFi, Altseason,
BlackRock.
I mean, exactly,
There's loads.
There's loads.
Yeah, those three are the ones we're big on. I call it AIOZ, not
AIOZ. AIOZ. Yeah, I mean,
Who knows? Who knows? Anyhow, Chavoli asks, what are your thoughts on copy trading?
That's a tough one. Okay, first of all, let's define what is copy trading, right? Because copy trading is basically where there will be a trader either on an exchange or through a Telegram group or some sort of a tool where you can follow exactly what they do in trading every day on the day, right? Usually the assumption is that if there's a good trader, you'll go and follow his trades, you'll make money. There's two issues I have with that.
Just two?
There's many. I mean, but we'll just start with the two most important ones, of course. And the first one is past performance is not indicative of future returns. A trader may have been shit hot, he may have been doing very well, and all the indications of his previous gains may not necessarily translate when you start investing or trading with him. So that's the one thing. Secondly, it's kind of I always go to the incentives, right? In terms of the trader himself. Why would I want other people, and why would I be allowing people to follow my trades if I'm making a lot of money doing this myself, right? It's only you're not getting much from it, right? You're basically just giving people your secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
The only potential reason they could be doing that is if they game theory and they're basically using you for liquidity, right? It's if these guys are following my trades and I can easily it's easy for me to exit quicker. I can exit quicker than them. They might exit liquid. I sell, and they potentially buy it at the same time I've told them to buy. So copy trading can be hit or miss, really hit or miss. I mean, I'm not casting too many aspersions. Sometimes if there's a really honest trader and he's giving you his calls the moment he's making them and you're executing at exactly the same time, and if there's tools that give you the execution on exactly the same way, and his strategy is still working, then potentially yes. But I would say that that's still the minority of it out there. And it can be really, really, you've got to do your due diligence definitely in terms of the trader himself, the tools he's using, and his long-term track record, the platforms he wants to do it on. And whatever you do, don't send anyone any money. Make sure if you're going to do any sort of copy trading, you control your funds completely, right? And you use an exchange or a brokerage platform or whatever that you fully trust. But yeah, I think just view it with a lot, truckloads of salt in that one.
Yeah. I've always thought, I mean, it's an interesting product. It's an interesting kind of toy. But I've always kind of seen it as a slightly sort of gimmicky thing, that exchanges are able to offer as a sort of add-on, as an extra sort of shiny object. It's not something I've really ever done or considered. But like Nick says, there are potential benefits, but you've got to be. It's
an extension, of course, really like trading bots, guys. You've also got to be careful with some of those, like these trading bots offered on exchanges and in general. Those are generally more scammy, but yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Lakinoton, and he's asking, you have 10K to invest in alts before this bull and looking for the best risk-reward ratio. What is your pick?
Okay, so basically asking what altcoin should I buy for 10,000x return?
Well, I guess his question is important in the sense that he's put their risk-reward, right? So that's interesting because people sometimes got to look at it from your risk-adjusted returns and potential rewards. So it's like it's not just about buying some hot altcoin that could 100x because the altcoin could also go to zero, right? It could also be looking at a really strong L1 that's got a very low risk, but it's got a relatively good return relative to that risk. So it doesn't necessarily, I don't know. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's just a question of what's your potential reward versus the risk you're taking on to do it, right?
Yeah. I think, we've done many videos on sort of how to put together a portfolio and, how to sort of manage that kind of risk reward ratio. I think if you're talking just about alts, I think it's important to have positions in a couple of sort of larger cap ones because, okay, the potential reward is not as big, but there is less risk. So for me, two ones that I've done recently are Near and Sui. I think those are, I think the projects are cool. I think the tech behind them is cool. I think the teams behind them are cool. I think they also have that kind of, they are sort of, I think, sort of fairly early in their development. So I think there is a lot of potential upside there, but they already have, market caps in the billions. Yeah. So they're not going to 100x from here, or at least I think that's very unlikely. But I'm comfortable holding them because I think they will see a return. I'm confident that they'll see a return. Then as you go down, as you go sort of down the chart, sort of down along the risk curve, that's when you get in, you then start dealing with medium and small caps. The temptation, I think, to YOLO everything into small caps in the hope of 100x returns or 1,000x returns or whatever is pretty high, but I just don't think it's the way to go to structure a portfolio. So you next look at some mid caps. So we're talking sort of around about the 100 million mark in terms of market cap. Yeah. And then a couple of small cap is sort of, we're talking like, or kind
below,
of 10
below 50
below millions. So I think try and avoid the temptation to just sling everything into low cap alts because it's very high. The reward is potentially huge, but the risk is massive. Yeah. So he's asking for a few of my other picks as well. I'm trying to think what my lower cap ones were. Have you got any particular low caps?
Yeah, I was looking into one for this question specifically, and I noticed that you also had it on your watch list, which is interesting. Is Osmosis.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the reason is because it's just below the top 100 in market cap. It's the predominant, so what is Osmosis? It's an AMM DEX on the predominant one on the Cosmos ecosystem, which also allows people to deploy their own liquidity pools, kind of like it uses the old balancer model from back in the 2020 cycle. And it's a really strong DEX on Cosmos, right? It's got market leader dominance. It's got 47 chains supported because it utilizes IBC. It could potentially expand to Ethereum and other blockchains as well. Strong liquidity. They go into potentially a funding round now as well.
Oh, really?
I spoke to Cito. Cito's also bullish on Osmo. And in terms of like the fee, the token itself can be utilized for fees and governance and also directing liquidity pool incentives, which is interesting basically from the perspective of what kind of liquidity pools are going to be getting the returns. Max supply is 1 billion. It's about 65% already out. This is an interesting project. I personally don't hold it. I saw it was on your watch list. I'm looking into it. I'm getting more excited about the Cosmos ecosystem in general. And as the predominant DEX on it, I thought that could be an interesting one. And the reason I think it's a good potential play from a risk-reward perspective is because, well, already it's got dominant market leader status in the Cosmos ecosystem. Cosmos is an expanding ecosystem. The Cosmos is expanding. Sorry.
That's very true, it is.
It's expanding. Yeah, I mean, it's just an exciting project, smart people working behind it. And so based on that, the risk is relatively low compared to the potential rewards if the Cosmos ecosystem keeps on growing, if they go through and put these new expansion to different chains. So keep that one on the radar. That's the one I think for a good pick for mine. Yeah.
Speaking of Cosmos ecosystem ones, a big one that's been very popular, I hold this as well. Dan, our head of research, holds it. Quite a few of our CoinBureau Club members hold it, is Sentinel, DVPN.
Sentinel,
Basically a decentralized VPN, which I think is, that plays into the deep in narrative. That's an easy one for people to understand. That's actually Sentinel's been around for a while, actually.
Privacy narrative as well, right?
Yes.
Yes, privacy narrative and on Cosmos, so it's very scalable. I don't actually hold it now. I mean, how has it been performing for you?
It's been all right. I mean, it's up a fair bit since I bought it.
Lots of the club subscribers have been pretty happy. I've seen them popping off. I'm like, damn. I should have listened to our
big Cosmos bull like you.
Exactly. Come on.
So yeah, obviously, as I say, full disclosure, I hold that, but that's a low cap that me and quite a few others are interested in as well. The other one I'll say that's on my watch list is World Mobile Token.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, again, another deep in play. This is one of the biggest projects on Cardano. So deep in. Cardano, obviously, big community, big projects, big community for Cardano and for World Mobile.
Very strong community, yes.
Yeah, very strong, very
strong willed
community.
Exactly, yes.
And Jessica is actually doing an AMA with those guys at some point soon on Discord. So keep a lookout for that because that's definitely one to listen to. Okay, so the next question comes from Mohammed Behboudi. How have you invested in Peaq Network? It's not launched yet.
Yeah.
Nick, do you want to explain
how a
few of us have been able to invest in
So
Peaq?
I guess the background, first of all, quickly just a background what Peaq is. Obviously, it's a multi-chain layer one developed specifically for Deepin, so the go-to blockchain for real-world assets. Think about ride-sharing electric vehicles, mobile networks, that kind of stuff, the one blockchain for them all. It's built on a Polkadot parachain, which makes it very omni-chain, and they also currently have they estimate about 10K TPS, and they're currently building on a testnet. Their Crest token is based on Kusama right now. So that's the project. We've spoken to the founders as well, really smart, enthusiastic, passionate people. And I think it's a pretty cool play in the sense that it's like, if you think back to the 2017 cycle, like IOTA, and how they tried to revolutionize the way we think about internet-connected devices. This is interesting because it's like the layer 2, and it's obviously a layer 1 that's built specifically for this, and it utilizes Polkadot, which is obviously, an established layer 1 ready, so they're not having to really build. And it's going to also potentially be EVM compatible as well. They're going to be making it EVM compatible. So that's basically what Peaq is. A lot of excitement around this project in general already. How do we invest? We invest strategically as well through a SAFT agreement. CoinBureau did that. And, we're excited to, obviously the project's exciting. We wanted to invest in them. We want to align our incentives with them as well. The token is not launched yet, yes, but they're going to be launching and airdropping Peaq tokens to those who stake in on the Crest network already. So that's something where you guys can get involved if you wanted to, if you think it's got potential to get those tokens. But yeah, I mean, we are long-term players. We think it's a long-term project. It's really exciting. We're going to be having an AMA with them.
An AMA with them as well.
And Jess is going to be doing an AMA with the founders as well in the CoinBureau Discord, which we'll link to below as well. So you guys can ask them as many questions as you want and without fear or favor. But yeah, I think we invested strategically through a SAFT agreement for future tokens because we're bullish on it and we strategically align with them. It's a strong project, and I think that that's the way we view our investments. Basically, we want to align with those kind of projects that have long-term potential. We've got a long vest out, so it's like we can't even realize those tokens for quite some time. But yeah, I'm excited for Peaq, and that's how we invested in them.
I should say as well, we were put in touch with the team by a mutual friend in the industry. So that's how we got to meet them and talk to them, and that's obviously as well how we got the opportunity to invest. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah,
people. This is a very close-knit industry, so it's personal connections that.
Yeah, we don't actively solicit. We're not out there, tapping on people's doors like we want allocation, we want this kind of stuff. People try to come to us, and we turn down 100, we turn down at least 50 deals for every one we accept, because we're just like very, very particular, and we want to make sure the most important criteria if we're going to invest in any sort of private sale, and we're doing quite a bit of these now. Now, if you're a CBC member, you'll also have seen this, is that we make sure that this is a project that will benefit, that our users will be interested in, that will benefit our content later on. And it's something where we view the potential of the project such that we will grow with it, and then as well as the users who want to use it, and potential token holders later on down the stage. So it's like, that's the main criteria, always honest and in the view to our subscribers in the end, and our viewers and members. So yeah, that's Peaq. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Okay, what's next?
That's the next one. So this is from, I'm going to have to try and give this the proper treatment, because this name is a crazy one. It is from Davagaga.
Certainly memorable.
That's a memorable news name. Can NEAR reach top 10 by market cap?
Yeah. Well, again, NEAR is something that I hold in my portfolio. Do you hold NEAR? You do, yeah.
Hold it for a year now, yeah.
Okay, well, longer than me. So, yeah, when we covered NEAR on the main channel a few weeks ago, one of the things that we raised was the fact that it's, for the last kind of couple of years or so, it's been this other L1. Obviously, it's got some crazy tech behind it, but it was kind of without a narrative. It wasn't really focused as an L1. It wasn't really focused on any particular niche. And this is something that, in general, L1s we think need to do in order to be successful. Again, going back to Avalanche, there's a lot of their focus is on gaming. They're trying to become the gaming L1. So we were sort of concerned that NEAR didn't really have that niche. However, what we now think is that NEAR could be placed to become the sort of AI L1. Yeah. That seems to be the route that it's going down. Obviously, Ilya, the founder of NEAR, was photographed being touched on the arm.
Have you heard of the touch of Jensen?
Yeah,
the touch of Jensen. It's the new bull indicator is the touch of Jensen. If you go to GTC and you get touched by Jensen himself, it's like a godsend.
Yeah. So that was, basically NEAR, we think, it could be well placed to catch that AI narrative as an L1. Now, obviously, that's potentially very, very big. Going back to what we were talking about, AI as a narrative earlier. So I think there is definitely a very good chance that it could. There seems to be. What's also interesting about NEAR is that when you look at statistics for actual users in its ecosystem, NEAR is a long way ahead of the pack, because it's got Sweat Economy, which is a popular sort of move to earn app, but it's also got Kaiching, which is a sort of payments app, which I'd never heard of.
I've never heard of that either.
Researched the video, but it's based in Singapore, so I'm presuming it's kind of big in that Asia, part of Asia. Which has got something like 11 million users.
Wow.
Yeah, it's seriously big. So actually, NEAR, there are more people transacting or using the NEAR blockchain than a lot of other L1s and L2s. So I think that's why I bought NEAR a few weeks ago, because I think it could definitely be a top 10.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Smart team, and also the fact around AI. You know that Ilya, I don't know if you saw Jess's post on this, and I'm going to mention this Q&A, but he basically was one of the authors of this Transformers paper, which was the formative paper, AI paper, that was out of the Google team that did this, that was used in a lot of what we now know in the AI space, like OpenAI. Many people, like Sam Altman, said this is the paper that was one of the most important papers for AI, the AI development right now. Tokenomics was great as well, because NEAR, we've got nearly all of it fully vested out, so there's no need to worry about any sort of more token vest coming from the perspective of any early backers. I agree. I think it's like a really exciting project. Glad to be holding it. It's done very well for me recently, and I think it's got a lot of potential. Touch of Jensen or
touch
not.
Of Jensen, but also should mention the touch of Gary as well, because it was named as a security.
I don't know, man. The touch of Jensen is stronger. The touch of Jensen is more powerful. It's like the Bulls versus the Bears. The touch of Jensen will just
Yeah. Well, keep an eye on
slap
that.
Slap it away.
Get away,
Gary.
That's definitely a downside, though, to be wary of. Obviously, NEAR is not the only crypto project that was named as a security by the SEC in those lawsuits against Binance and Coinbase, but it was one of those that was mentioned. And if the SEC is successful in those lawsuits, then that is a big tail risk for NEAR. So keep an eye on that. You've got these lawsuits. I know are boring as hell, but You've got to keep an eye on them because they could have big effects right across crypto. Let's not even get onto what's happening with Ethereum at the moment. Let's instead get on to the final question. I've got one final question for you after this as well. But this last one comes from SKC Mohammed. What's the most common and biggest misconception about crypto? Like to debunk? Gosh, where do we start?
Where do we start? I think one of the biggest I've seen out there is that crypto never sleeps, and crypto users, and they never get any sleep. I mean, I personally get like 3 hours of sleep a night, solid 3 hours of sleep a night, whole 3 hours of sleep a night. So that's a common misconception we just need to cast aside. No, more seriously, I think one of the most popular misconceptions I've seen out there is a good variant of the survivorship bias. That people view, they read about and learn about and hear about the guy who turned $100 into $100,000 on a meme coin, the guy who became an overnight millionaire because he bet on the right SLIF token or doggy coin or whatnot, and not even just the meme coin space, but just in general from earlier days in crypto, the millionaire who invested in Bitcoin back in 2012, and the reason is because you hear about all those stories because they do well and they're good for narratives and they're good for headlines, but you don't hear about the 100 other users of people. The guy who lost $100,000 on meme coins, and there's been recent examples of this. If you look at these blockchain trackers like Look On Chain, etc., people lose a lot of money in crypto as well. So I think it's important to realize that it isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It isn't a way where you can just come in here and YOLO onto a meme coin just because someone else did it, because there's a lot more people out there who haven't been as successful and have been as lucky. And you don't hear about them because you'd be too goddamn embarrassed to say, I spent my $100,000 savings on the latest SLIF meme coin or, whatever, Gary with hat, whatever it is,
Yeah. My answer to that question is that crypto has the biggest myth about crypto, I should say, that crypto has, nobody uses it, it's purely speculative, and that if it is used, it's used for things like money laundering and stuff like that. Crypto is being used a lot, especially in parts of the world that are more financially or geopolitically unstable. Like people across places like Africa and parts of Asia are using crypto, often stable coins, but other forms of crypto as well, to transact, which is what you think that this was all created for in the first place, and to use as a hedge against rampant inflation in their own currency. So it is functioning in a lot of places as an alternative financial system, which is what it was designed to do. And I mean, sure, it does get used in some cases for money laundering and other nefarious purposes. But as an overall percentage of all the money laundering and financial crime that takes place across the world, it is a drop in the ocean. And really, if you want to launder money, cash is still the most effective way to do that. You can't
track cash, man. It's not on chain.
Yeah. Crypto is all traceable. There's a digital paper trail, if you like. So I think those are for me, and I'm afraid those are just going to persist as well, because there are plenty of people. Elizabeth Warren springs to mind, who are determined to use that as their anti-crypto agenda, despite what the statistics may say. We've done videos where we've talked about, blockchain tracking companies like Chainalysis have come out and, given statistics that show just how limited it really is, crypto used for money laundering or whatever. But some people will still bang that drum regardless. Yeah. Okay, so that's the last of your questions. Thank you for sending them in, Nick. I've got one more question. We're recording this on Friday. So yesterday, Sam Bankman-Fried, the memorial head behind us, was sentenced to 25 years.
25 years,
by the judge. So, Nick,
my thoughts.
Your thoughts. Is that fair, unfair? What do you think?
It's a tricky one. Look, I guess the case here is like, okay, so the 25 years is kind of like, I was more than I was expecting. Right?
Really?
Slightly more than I was expecting, because of the fact that everyone's, okay, look, we can discussions aside in terms of like how many lenders went bankrupt, all and the other companies have adversely affected, and the emotional trauma it caused many people. But in terms of people who getting their funds back, everyone is getting the fiat dollar worth, at least the fiat dollar worth. Yes, of course, if in crypto, you're not getting the crypto valuation right now, and you could have lost out on the gains. But in terms of what was lost, that's been recovered. And then not from a moral perspective, but from like a completely, sentencing guideline perspective in a fraud case, right? So they were all recovered. So then, the guidelines, like people were saying, potentially 10 to 15. 25, I think, is like, what the judge had to work with in terms of sentencing guidelines according to fraud cases in the past and all that kind of stuff. I think that was on the higher end of what the judge could have given. However, obviously, morally, he never said sorry. He was a he was a fraudster from the beginning. Especially afterwards, and how he conducted himself. Like especially yesterday in the sentence, they mentioned examples where he said stuff like "f the regulators," and he went on this talking about how he's just woke virtually signaling because it helps him out. So all the things he did, subsequent that he's a sociopath, right? And from that perspective, he deserves much more from a moral angle. But legally, I think that the judge has put in the 25 limit to get him there, and it's a considerable amount of time, and it will do something in terms of like settling the case right now. Yeah, I don't know. What's your view on it, man?
I mean, I don't think it's long enough. I guess that I don't know enough about the law. I mean, I guess there are sort of legal guidelines to be taken into account. Can you give someone more because you think that they're morally suspect? But I mean, he never said sorry. He was always evasive about it. I don't think he's really kind of accepted.
I don't think he thinks he's sorry. I don't think he does. And he's just But the question is, does he think he's done anything wrong? He doesn't. He doesn't. He views everything like the judge yesterday was going through when he was reading out the sentence. I was following it live, and the judge was reading through the way Sam calculated it. His risk calculus, right? His risk calculus is, if there is a downside, and he said this to Caroline as well, right? And he's telegraphed this many times. The downside is the world ends tomorrow. As long as there's a positive EV in terms of his calculus from this effective altruism kind of angle, as long as you have a positive EV, I'll take that trade.
Yeah.
And he took that trade. The downside was him going to prison, 25 years. He's going to have a lot of time to think about it.
Yeah. But, I mean, again, I don't know how these things work, but presumably he'll get reduced time for good behavior. Maybe he'll be back. I'm going to make this call now, Nick. I'm going to make this call in this video. Sam Bankman-Fried will be back at some point, and too many people will have forgotten, and he'll be back with some new project, some new exchange, some new piece of crap. This isn't the last we've seen of him. Like, it's the last for a long time. But this guy is a turd that won't flush.
This is true. That. Well, I mean, something could happen in the interim that could change, maybe. I mean, what could really be like is if Diddy lands up in the same cell as him.
Then all bets are off.
All bets are off. Yeah, Sam will emerge a changed man for other reasons.
Yeah. Okay, so on that note, that's about it for this week. One combination of Nick, myself, and Jess will be back for another Q&A next week. So thanks for watching. Thanks for sending in your questions.
Let us know in the comments if you like this backdrop as well, right?
Yeah. What do you think of the new? What do you think of the new Q&A
the new crypto
studio?
Between the ferns. Between two ferns.
Do you want us to go back to the sofa? Do you want us to keep coordinating, albeit accidentally? Let us know. Thanks for watching, guys.
Cheers, guys.